What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit a million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
City.
Isn't it about time for somebody's favorite radio program?
Yeah. 97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. I can't see him, but he talks to me.
Now, live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
We are live on a Wednesday edition of the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming on the X platform, live at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Mike Gill. Josh Jennings producing today's show. You out there, beautiful day, hot and heavy, baby. Feels like the summertime down the Jersey Shore. We got so much going for you, including, is anybody hotter than Ranger Suarez? I don't think so. I don't know that you can compare anything to what we're seeing with Ranger Suarez right now. In fact, I heard Mad Dog this morning on First Take say the last time we've seen a guy get off to this starter was 1966. 9-0, 10 strikeouts last night for Ranger Suarez. As we talked about this yesterday during Knicks Nuggets, what that win would mean for Ranger Suarez. Well, he beats the world champs. He gets to 9-0. The ERA is still sparkling, so it's not like he got a cheapy win where, he gave up 5 runs and the offense helped him out and he ended up getting the win. They won because Ranger Suarez was really good last night. He had everything going for him last night. And you're watching him and you're just saying to yourself, how can this guy keep doing this? How does he not have a day or a night where he just doesn't have his stuff? How does he have a game where you're just like, he's not as sharp as he was the other time out? Suarez last night was outstanding. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Ranger Suarez, he gets to 9-0, but it's the perfect storm. You get the no doubt about home run by Bryce Harper last night. He absolutely crushes a baseball. You get the 10 strikeouts from Suarez, and the Phillies win their 35th game of the season over the defending World Series champions. But you take a look at it. Ranger Suarez win. He is doing this as the team's quote-unquote third best pitcher. And this is how you get a team that wins 35 of their first 49 games. They're 27-6 in their last 33. And it's the first time since 1901 that they have won 27 games in a 33-game span. But this all comes down to the names. You got Ranger Suarez. There's nobody better in baseball than Ranger Suarez right now. That's period, point blank. Like, you missed your boat to hit on the Cy Young numbers for him. You know why? Because he's number 2 on the Cy Young betting list right now. If you wanted to get the odds on Ranger, if you believed in him, you hopefully got him a week or 2 or 3 or 4 ago. Because right now, there's only one pitcher in baseball that has better odds to win the Cy Young than Ranger Suarez does. Oh, and it's his teammate, Zach Wheeler. I said this yesterday. If Suarez wins this game, he's going to jump up that Cy Young balloting, and you're not going to get good odds. It's like plus 600, I think I saw this morning, depending on what app you like to use. But Suarez right now, this is no longer a fluke. Guys take the whole year to get to 9 wins. He's done it before Memorial Day. Ranger Suarez has a chance to do something that we don't see in baseball. You know, I heard Mad Dog this morning say that Juan Marichal was the last pitcher to do what Rangers doing, 1966. He got off to a 9-0 start, his ERA under 150. And that season, Juan Marichal won like 25 games. And I was looking at Juan Marichal, and I said, he won 20-plus games. I mean, like every single year. It's a different era. It's a different time. Juan Marichal won 25 games in 63, 21 games in 64, 22 games in 65, 25 games in 66, 26 games in 68, 21 games in 69. He won 18 games in 71. He won 18 games in 62. You're talking about Ranger Suarez, who has a chance to win 20 baseball games this summer. Hello? You talk about history for the young people out there. When was the last time we were talking about a guy this early in the season that's closing in the potential to win 20 games? He's going to have more than 10 wins by the All-Star break. Which, by the way, the All-Star break is over a month from now. You could be looking at a guy who's going into the second half of the year with 13, 14, 15 wins. It's unbelievable what this guy is doing. He lowered his ERA last night. 136. It's the lowest ERA by a Phillies pitcher in his first 10 starts of the season. The only other guy, I mean, you think about what the Phillies are doing, is Grover Alexander, a Hall of Famer who had a 124 ERA in 1916 and a 131 ERA in 1915. I don't have anybody in the listening audience that was born to see any of those things. At least I don't think I do. And if I do, God bless you, man. That's unbelievable. You would be about 110 years old. But Suarez is the first pitcher to do what we're doing since Juan Marichal. I said, back to 1966. And, oh, by the way, it's not even Memorial Day yet. We're talking about back then Juan Marichal, and those pitchers pitched, every inning of every game almost. For Suarez to be doing what he's doing, it's historic. It's like we're watching something that you're like, wow, we don't get to see a pitcher do this. And I don't know that everybody's accepting or acknowledging what Ranger Suarez is, because you have Aaron Nola and you have Zach Wheeler. And it's like, he's the third guy. Guess what? For my money right now, I'll tell you this. It might sound like it's crazy reaction to what we saw last night. If you asked me to win one game, I don't know that I pick any other guy than Ranger Suarez. I know Wheeler's awesome, and I like Wheeler a lot. But I've also seen Wheeler lose a big game when I needed him the most last year in Game 6. Right? It's not like you're saying, Zach Wheeler is winning that game for you. He had a chance to win that game for the Phillies last year. And he didn't get it done in 6, and they didn't get it done in 7. If you said right now, who are you picking to win the biggest game that you have to have? Now, Suarez did pitch Game 7, by the way. Wheeler, I take that back. Wheeler pitched Game 5. It was Nola that pitched Game 6. It was the Game 6 where they lost 5-1. But if you ask me right now to pick a big game guy, Ranger Suarez has shown time and time again. The Atlanta game, he wins 3-1 against Spencer Strider. He wins that game. He pitched the World Series run the year before. He had multiple big games in that. I mean, it's hard to say. And now what you're watching here is a guy that's just getting better and better and better. He's 28 years old. He's kind of commanding a lot better. It is. Now, look, I'm a pitcher. I love watching pitchers, love watching pitchers duel, love watching pitching. His 2 career postseason runs with the Phillies. Suarez is 3-1 with a 1.62 ERA and a 0.90 WHIP. He is the biggest of big game guys potentially that this. Now, listen, Wheeler's been really good too. I'm not trying to downplay Wheeler at all. I'm just saying, if you had to pick one of these guys, man, it's hard to say you're going to go against what Ranger Suarez is doing. I think Nola would probably be most people's third pick out of these three. You're ranking him right now. Maybe listen, the one thing about Wheeler, he's 4-3 in the 10 postseason starts with the Phillies. His ERA is 2.42. His whip is ridiculous, 0.73. He's been really good, but 4-3. He was 1-3 the year the Phillies went to the World Series, and he was 3-0 last year. So he was excellent last year with a 1.95 ERA. Not downplaying him at all. But biggest game of the season, and you need to get a win right now, it's hard to say you're going against Ranger Suarez.
Well, the argument against Suarez is that in that Game 7 you mentioned last year, Mike, he went 4 2/3 innings to give up 3 earned runs on 6 hits. So
in the Arizona game, yep.
Right. So he was in the biggest game. Now, I ask you this question, Mike. Was that a different Ranger Suarez?
Well,
because, he's supposedly in better shape now. He's in better health right now.
I think it's definitely a different Ranger. It's a better version of Ranger Suarez. There's no question about it. I mean, the guy we've gotten over the last couple of years has not been able to pitch in the regular season. He has been a great playoff performer. That's been the thing with him. He's been there for you in the playoffs. But the one year, he was kind of like going back and forth from the bullpen to the starter.
Right,
you didn't
2002.
Really, yeah. And then last year he was definitively your third guy. Look, Wheeler this year, 5-3 with a 2.50 ERA and a 0.97 whip. He's the leader for the Cy Young Award. He hasn't been the Phillies' best pitcher. It's not close. All right.
The current odds you were asking about, Mike. Wheeler, I got at plus 300. Suarez at plus 500. In between them is Shota Imanaga at plus 400.
Which app is that?
That's DraftKings.
Okay, so that's DraftKings app. I've seen like ESPN Plus has different odds. I've seen my buddy John Marks over at Bet Parks had posted some odds this morning. I think that's from the Bet Parks app. Yeah. Wheeler plus 200, Suarez plus 400, Imanaga plus 500, Glasnow plus 600, and down the line you go. But plus 400 for Ranger Suarez, you've lost your value. I mean, you've lost the value that you had 2 weeks ago when essentially he was plus 2,500 at a time. Dan in EHC says Ranger starts the All-Star game. Well, if they're picking right now, it's hard to go against Suarez at 9-0. And the ERA, look, not only the ERA is sparkling. The whip is ridiculous. Like, to me, whip is one of the most important stats. I like the whip number because you could have other peripherals, but if your whip is high, you're constantly getting yourself into trouble that you got to get out of. A whip is your walks plus the hits over the inning. So if you have like a 1.5 whip, that means you're putting a base runner and a half on every single inning that you go out there. That's not good because then you're constantly trying to wiggle out of jams. The whip for Ranger Suarez is 0.79. He's barely putting a base runner on every single inning. So essentially, nobody's getting on base against him.
Compare him to Imanaga. Ranger Suarez has the best whip in the National League at that number, but Imanaga is at 0.913. Imanaga has a better ERA on the year than Ranger Suarez, though. So they're right there neck and neck.
They are. Now, what's Imanaga's record?
Imanaga's record is 5-0.
Yeah, 5-0 versus 9-0, so you get the gaudy. And listen, if you're an older school kind of guy, you probably like that win number being 9-0. I know the old school guys like, hell, you got to win games. The starting pitchers' win totals just aren't the same as they used to be. That's something that's making Suarez impressive, is that starting pitchers don't win as much as they used to because they generally don't get into the last long enough.
Right.
And he's 9-0. The ERAs are comparable, right? What's Imanaga's ERA?
Imanaga is currently 0.84.
ERA?
Yes.
Whoa, that's really good. I should know that. He's on my fantasy team.
Good job by you.
That's really, really good. And then, but the whip number, Rangers is lower, so he's putting less runners on
Imanaga
base.
has the better ERA. Rangers got the better whip.
And by the way, I think the other thing with Ranger that you got to keep in mind, he has 68 strikeouts. Not really thought of as a strikeout pitcher. He's averaging more than a strikeout per inning.
So is Imanaga. He's got 58 strikeouts at 53 2/3 innings.
Yeah, and so there's another thing. Wheeler, Suarez has pitched more innings than Imanaga. He has 66 innings. He has 68 strikeouts. He only has 12 walks on the season. He's given up only 40 hits in 66. Guys, what we're watching is awesome. What we're watching right now with Ranger Suarez is like nobody saw this coming. Like if I was to say, hey, we're talking about Zach Wheeler. He's 9-0. He's got a 1.55 ERA and a 0.89 ERA. Okay, it's Zach Wheeler. Like it's not that I expect those numbers, but I'm not as surprised. This is Ranger Suarez. Like, we're talking about a guy who last year, 1 year ago, you know how many games Ranger Suarez won? 4. He won 4 games last year.
Right.
He had a 4.18 ERA and a whip of 142. Not good. He was 4-6. The year before that, 10-7. 10 win season and 29 starts. He had 8 wins the season before that. He has 38 career wins. 9 of them have come since April. I mean, think about that. He has 38 career wins, and 9 of them have come to actually March. Well, he didn't pitch in March, I doubt. I think they only played. Maybe he did. I don't know. So Terry and Galloway said he hit the Rangers Suarez for Cy Young twice before the season started. I like that. You got him at, wow. Whoa, Terry. He got him at plus 6,000 twice. That's, if he wins, Terry, Terry's going to be bringing home over $1,000 with that because he put a very low, he put like $7 down to win. That's a nice win out of you, Terry. If you hit that plus 6,000, he did it twice. He just showed me the ticket.
Don't spend it all in one place, Terry.
Oh man, I like that bet, Terry.
By the way, Ranger did pitch March 31st.
So then, yeah, he has 9 wins since March.
Right. So he has pitched every month of the season.
38 career wins, 9 since March. Mike Suarez has been great and deserves the flowers, but Imanaga has been slightly better. It's just really which you like. I mean, to tell me he's been slightly better is asinine.
It's a preference. It's a personal preference.
You can't sit here and say he's been slightly better than a guy who's 9-0 with a whip of 0.79. How has he been Nobody's better than the other. It's just which guy that you prefer. And because I see who this text message is coming from, you're preferring the other guy because I said the other guy's better. If I said Imanaga was slightly better, you would tell me Suarez was slightly better.
I mean, Ranger Suarez has allowed 10 earned runs in 10 starts this year.
How could anybody tell me that anybody's been slightly better out of those two? I mean, if you like Imanaga, great. Have a blast with that. Go have a beer with it. And if you like Suarez better, how could you fault anybody for saying that?
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
It's a personal preference. It's not a one's better than the other.
Andrew and Summers Point. So come playoffs, we split our right-handed pitchers and go Wheeler, Ranger, Nola. I have said that a lot of times, Andrew. At the way this is going right now, I would go Wheeler, Wheeler, Suarez, Nola. That's how I would set it up. The only thing with that is come playoff time in the NLCS and or the World Series, the way that kind of shapes up for you is Wheeler gets the game 1 starts. If everything lines up correctly. Suarez would then get the game 2 starts. Nola would get the game 3 starts. Then the 4th guy would pitch the game 4. Then you would get Wheeler, Nola, Wheeler, Suarez, and if it went to game 7, it goes Nola. In a game 7, would you rather Nola or Suarez?
Suarez.
So under that, would you pitch Suarez as the 2 or the 3? Because if you keep him as the 3, he lines up as the game 7 pitcher. If he moves to the 2, now I can hear people saying, well, if you have Suarez, you win game 6.
That's true.
But what if you're down and you need to win 6 and 7 like Arizona was last year? I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. Would you just keep Nola as the 2 so that Suarez is in that 3rd spot constantly and that you really have an advantage in the 3 spot?
No, because of this reason. I like Ranger against every other team's number 2. To me, I think that is a huge factor. I don't like Nola against every other team's number 2.
Jeff in Galloway says he got in at Ranger at 2,500. Yeah, nice. You're way behind Terry, though. He got 6,000 twice.
Anything in the 4 digits, I give you a thumbs up.
Jeff Galloway, and I hope you put more money than Terry did. I'm not knocking Terry, but at plus 2,500, I hope you're going to get the same payout. Terry got it at plus 6,000, but he did it twice. He hit it once for a quick little 7er, and then bang, hit again for a little 10er.
Double your pleasure, double the fun. Double mint gum.
Good stuff. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com. Mad Dog Russo was on First Take this morning. He talked about the Phillies lineup. He talked about their pitching. But he says this is what the Phillies have that separates them and why he thinks they're the favorite. You'll hear what he said coming up next. I'll ask Mike McGarry about it from the Press of Atlantic City. Does he see what the Mad Dog sees? Mad Dog's a good baseball guy. Should they be considered the favorite in the NL? Mad Dog, you'll hear why he thinks they should be. They have this. What is it? Find out next on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
At Grand Canyon University, we believe in equal opportunity, and the American dream starts with purpose. Whether your pursuit involves a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, GCU's learning environments are designed for supportive networking and collaboration. With over 330 academic programs, GCU provides a path to help you fulfill your dreams. The pursuit to serve others is yours. Find your purpose at GCU. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu.
With Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
2:52 on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming live on the X platform at 97.3 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive. So no James Bradberry today at practice for the Eagles. They had OTAs. They are voluntary, but he was not there. I don't know what it means. We talked about this yesterday, though. Like, if Cooper DeJean, they draft this guy, and we played the audio from Brian Baldinger yesterday, who was on the Greenlight podcast, and he was talking about, hey, they drafted him with a plan in place. Like, they had to have a plan for Cooper DeJean to trade up and draft him. And if that's the case, what is that plan? So we were discussing that yesterday, and if you have Cooper DeJean out there and no James Bradberry, now he was not in the starting spot today. So the setup at practice today, according to John Clark, was Slay and Isaiah Rodgers at outside corner, Avonte Maddox in the slot, Devin White, Zach Bond at linebacker. I didn't see that Nakobe Dean was in any linebacker set, so maybe he just wasn't there today. I didn't see that he wasn't there or that he was there, but I didn't see Andrew DeCecco tweeted out the linebacker pairings, and Nakobe Dean was not in any pairing, so I imagine he just wasn't there today. C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship were your starting safety combination today. So what is the future for Cooper DeJean? We'll talk about that a little bit deeper today with Jeff Mosher for Football at 4. We'll get his thoughts on no James Bradberry at OTAs and what the future could hold for him. And Jalen Hurts was throwing to one particular Eagle that we'll have more information on. Kind of interesting, kind of different, kind of unique, kind of new. We'll get that coming up on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. CBS Sports ranks the best offensive units in the NFL. Where did the Eagles' offense rank on that list? This is very surprising, and I have it next.
This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. I'm Mike Gill, taking you till 6 o'clock tonight. We got a lot happening, and of course the Eagles OTAs are underway as an interesting name not there today, that being James Bradberry. Now, it's voluntary, so I'm not going to go all scorched earth on James Bradberry, but him not being there certainly is the start of potentially something here, right? What could this mean? It could mean he just didn't want to go. Could mean he knows the end is near. He could have possibly be shopping for sconces. You like that, huh?
Was that Kerry Williams?
Kerry Williams, yeah. He didn't show up to the OTAs.
Yes.
He was shopping for sconces with his wife or something for his house. I don't know what James Bradberry is doing.
That's a great pull by you, though, by the way.
Thank you. These things, sometimes we read too much into, other times we don't read enough. But James Bradberry definitely is the guy who everybody is like, all right, what's going on with him? What is the next step for James Bradberry, and what happens at that position? We talked about yesterday, they drafted Cooper DeJean. As I see it right now, if James Bradberry's on the team, he's probably at least the top guy on the depth chart today. And then you drafted Quinyon Mitchell, and then you have Cooper DeJean. You had Avonte Maddox playing slot today. Well, I think if Avonte Maddox is healthy, he's your starting slot guy. There's no reason to believe that he's not good enough to be the starting slot guy on this team as long as he's healthy. They also have Isaiah Rodgers, who started on the outside today with Darius Slay, and the other guy being Tyler Hall, who's a slot guy. So they have a lot of guys. Like, what is the next spot for Cooper DeJean? Where do they fit him in? I don't know, but I think it's interesting that Bradberry wasn't there. And I will say this, like, Darius Slay brought up that he, talked to other corners in the league that have played for Vic Fangio. Our buddy Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports has that answered. Let's hear what Darius Slay has to say. As he was asked about other corners in the league that he has talked to that have played for Vic Fangio.
From here, it's gonna be great, man. If you've been looking, like, it's just our team is built on like leadership and guys that's always willing to go out for the other guys. So, man, I think he's a guy that just go build a team up. Come here with great energy. He's been a guy that's been in the room with a lot of great vets. And so, like, you got a team full of vets that's been under a lot of coaches. And not one time, like, since I've been here as an Eagle, like, somebody had something bad and negative to say about the DC, because we always, go hard for him. It doesn't matter who it is, because we want to win. So, I don't know what that happened over there, but from my point of view over here, it's just, he's a great dude. I've been hitting up with great things about him because I used to watch like Aqib Talib and all them guys and corners that played under his system. They always talking highly on him.
Interesting answer by Slay. Talk about all veteran they are, and that there's a lot of veterans here. They also got a lot of young players in that secondary room. All of those corners, other than Slay and Bradberry and Maddox, they're all real young guys. So the point that I was intrigued by, Slay talking about Fangio there and all the veteran players that he has talked to that have played for Fangio, keep this in mind. Darius Slay and James Bradberry and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson were all here for Jonathan Gannon, and they all had their best season ever playing in John Gannon's defense. They have to feel some sort of comfort that they are going to be back in a style that suits them the best. Hey, John Gannon was not liked by a lot of people out there. A lot of you fans just did not like John Gannon. You know who liked John Gannon? Darius Slay, James Bradberry, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat. Just about every player that played for him liked that defense. You may not like that style of defense, but those players all say, John Gannon, thank you for putting me in that defense, because I guarantee you TJ Edwards thanks him for getting him paid. I guarantee you Marcus Epps thanks him for getting him paid. I guarantee you Kaiser White thanks him for getting him paid. I guarantee you every player on that defense is saying, I had my best year playing in John Gannon's defense, and now I get to go back into it. Now, some people will say, well, Sean Desai's defense was supposed to be similar to that. It was supposed to be. The problem was it really wasn't. He ran a lot of Vic Fangio principles, but his coverages were different. His secondary was different, and it turned into the reason why he didn't make it through the season.
Also, don't forget that the players and reports that came out said that Desai was not good at communicating, and that he was not good at, helping guys understand where they were supposed to be at times. So there's certainly a possibility that Desai was trying to run Fangio's defense, but he was incapable of communicating it in the way that Fangio or Gannon can.
Right, and this goes to another thing that's been talked about out there, which is the Miami defenders have been kind of taking some shots at Fangio, which I don't put a whole heck of a lot of stock in, quite frankly. One of the things, a lot of the secondary players were kind of, not too sad to see him go, in other words.
Right.
And I talked about this morning. I was on Birds 365. They asked me about, do I put any stock into who was the player from Miami?
So the guy who spoke yesterday was Javon Holland.
That's
He's
right.
their safety. And Holland was asked about what it's like for Anthony Weaver taking over compared to Vic Fangio. And he said, quote, it's a complete 180. He said that Weaver relates to people better than Fangio and that Weaver's a good person and that makes a difference.
Right. So my answer to that is simply this. I compare it to, let's say you're doing, you're in our industry, okay? And you're a content creator, okay? Let's say you're a content creator. You're somebody that does social media, broadcasting, podcasting, all that stuff. You could work for Barstool Sports, and that just might not be your scene. It's very fraternity, a lot of poop and fart jokes and, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You might love that atmosphere, but it might not be for you. That doesn't mean they're bad guys. It doesn't mean that it's a terrible spot to work. It just might be for you.
Correct.
You could go across the street and do content creating for CBS Sports. It's a little bit more corporate. It's a little bit more cleaned up. It's a little less, fraternity-like. And you might say, this is a better atmosphere for me. Some of the younger players a lot of the younger players, and this is one of the things we got into today, the younger generation of players, I think, has this feeling of being friends with the coach. They want to be friends with the coach. And I don't think Vic Fangio wants to be your friend, right? I don't want to be your friend. I want to be your coach. I think some of the younger players rather have a friend than a coach. And maybe the Miami Dolphins players wanted a friend more than a coach. Well, one Philadelphia Eagle, he's not looking for a friend. He wants a coach.
I'm all about old school football. If you know Apopka High School, where I'm from, the city of Apopka, our coach was old school with everything we did with running stadiums and stuff like that. So it's always been old school, hard work. I'm ready to be coach any kind of way, old school, new school, whatever y'all want to call it.
That's Jalen Carter. He said he likes Vic Fangio's old school mentality. He wants to be coached hard. Some guys want to be coached hard and other guys don't. So, yeah, I put some stock into what the guy from Miami says, but it's not universal. Okay, the group of guys in Miami, some of them said, I didn't like this guy. He was crusty. We know that he's crusty. But maybe crusty is what James Bradbury. James Bradbury's a tough one because I don't know what his situation would be. But maybe that's what Darius Slay, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Jalen Carter. Maybe that's what they like.
By the way, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he mentioned at his press conference how much he loved playing for Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell in Detroit because of how old school they were. Well, guess what? He's coming back to Philadelphia for an old school coach here.
Big time old school coach. And look, sometimes the old school coach, the game passes them by. We're about to find out. But I don't think I put my point is, I'm not putting a lot of stock into some guy from the Miami Dolphins seemed to not click or think that Vic Fangio, he kind of felt that he didn't connect well with the players, that the game was kind of passing him by.
Yeah, I mean, one of the comments, Jalen Ramsey said, when Fangio was initially fired, that, Fangio never got along with the players. And that was kind of played out a little bit. If anybody who saw the in-season Hard Knocks for the Dolphins last year, where Fangio was never on camera, he was basically never seen. It wasn't like he's never part of the team, and players were seen joking about there's old man Fangio over there. So there was obviously a bad attitude in the building about him.
Well, it's one thing. We had Colin Thompson on last week, who played in Chicago when Vic Fangio was the defensive coordinator, and he said, he's not the most personable guy, but you know what he was great with? Hey, Vic, where can I go for some good Italian food? Right. When you have that connection, you got to find that connection sometimes. And it doesn't sound like the Dolphins players were able to do that. And that's not I'm not knocking the Dolphins players, just different personalities. All right, let's get to the Phillies real quick. Their lineup is out, and it's brought to you by Clark's Moving and Storage, Rio Grande, moving to Breeze with Clark's Moving and Storage. Game 2 against Texas. Here's the lineup tonight. Schwarber, Real Muto, Harper, Bohm, Stott, Castellanos, Marsh, Sosa, Rojas. So Clemens is out of the lineup tonight. Sosa's back at short. Stott's back at second, and everything else is the same there. You've got pretty much the same lineup except for Marsh is now hitting seventh with Clemens out of the lineup. Sosa is in the 8th spot, and then Rojas is at 9th. And by the way, it is Taijuan Walker. He is getting to start tonight. There were some questions whether he would make the start because of that foot contusion, toe contusion. I think he had a
foot.
Was it a foot or a toe?
Well, the ball bounced off the side of his foot.
Yeah. Well, I thought they were saying he had a toe contusion, but whatever. He's pitching. Who cares if it's his foot or his toe? He's out there pitching tonight. There was some
part
talk
of the lower extremity of his leg.
Yeah, if this was hockey, it would be a lower body injury that he suffered with that line drive. But yeah, he got the line drive taken off the foot or the toe, and he is back pitching tonight.
It was actually kind of a hockey goalie save the way he kicked it.
Yeah, he kicked it to Merrifield, and then Merrifield tried to throw to first, and he did what I try to teach the kids all the time, like do a little pump and then turn the other way because you try to catch somebody sleeping. So he did a good job, but these are major league runners. They didn't get caught napping in that situation there. Speaking of the Phillies lineup tonight, which you can see up on the screen if you're watching actually over at on Twitter at X at 973 ESPN at Mike Gill Show. I'll put the lineup back on the screen real fast because there's one the spot in the lineup I wanted to talk about real quick, which is Bohm. Did you McGarry wrote the article today, and I meant to ask him about it when he was on over at pressofac.com. So the lineup today, there you go: Schwarber, Real Muto, Harper, Bohm, Stott. So they're going back to that Stott in the 5-hole. So two things. One, McGarry wrote the article about if Bryce Harper's son, if he was to teach him to hit like anybody on the team, who do you think Harper picked? Did you read this article this morning?
I did not see the article.
McGarry wrote, I think it was today. It might have been yesterday. It was posted 5 hours ago. Which Phillies player is Bryce Harper going to teach his son to hit like?
I mean, I would personally pick Alec Bohm. But I'm assuming that might not be the pick of Bryce Harper.
So, Bohm is right.
Oh, it is right. Okay.
Yes. The article starts out when Bryce Harper shows video to his son of who he wants him to hit like. He will show him video of Alec Bohm. So, I have liked Bohm really since he's come into the league. Now,
I've been a Bohm guy from day one.
I acknowledge that he struggled the 1 year, but I didn't think that he was going to be a waste, a pick, or a bust or anything like that.
Right.
I think he's gotten better and better and better because of his approach. I think his approach is just what has separated him into being like an average hitter to now a really good hitter. And last night, 2 for 4. The ball that he hits, the single, he rips that. And you even hear Ruben Amaro Jr., he's like, oh, man, just the swing he puts on that ball, the double he hits. But here's the one thing with Bohm that I think we have to focus on is the RBIs. He has a batting average with runners in scoring position. He's got to be hitting like 400 with runners in scoring position. It's unbelievable. It feels like, listen, there are times he comes up, grounds into a double play, or doesn't drive a run home. It's going to happen. But the guy is hitting like 400 with runners in scoring position. It's unbelievable. And Bohm, and now people will talk about, I can see it. He didn't do this in the playoffs last year. Not for a lot of the playoffs. Although, who was the one guy who showed up in Game 7? He hit the home run. He was the one guy that did something that day. I think Bohm is just, his swing, his approach. I think one thing that people would like to see more from him is his ability to drive the ball and be more of a home run hitter. He just doesn't seem like that's the next evolution of him, possibly. We'll see. But, man, has he been just a rock-solid force behind Harper. And it's funny to hear Harper now say, look, if I'm teaching my kid to hit somebody, it's to teach him to swing like somebody, it's going to be like Alec Bohm. And it's cool to see Bohm kind of the whole, get me out of here, I hate this bleeping plays, to turn into the middle of the lineup guy on the best team in baseball. I don't know that many people thought that was a possibility for him, right? That's one thing about this Phillies team that's kind of, you ask about things that have come out of nowhere. Ranger Suarez being the second in the Cy Young Award, and right now Alec Bohm being your probably highest MVP odds guy. Is Harper have better odds than Bohm right now? I don't know. I haven't seen the MVP, National League MVP odds, but I don't know that Harper is ahead of Bohm. But when this season started, who would have said, I got Cy Young Award and Ranger Suarez has got the second best odds and Alec Bohm is your best odds for an offensive player? I can't imagine that anybody thought that was happening. And that is something that really stands out about this team right now, right? About why is this team doing what they're doing? Because they have a couple surprises. They have a couple surprises, and it is carrying the team at times.
Harper is currently plus 1,200. Bohm is plus 1,500.
Wow, so Harper is better.
He is a little better, yes.
Wow, I'm mildly surprised by that. Mildly, because Harper has started to get going a little bit here.
He has. The home run home last night probably helps that a little bit.
Well, the home run, the double.
But, the home run was a monster shot. It wasn't a cheapie.
Shaner in EHC says, how dare you? Bohm for president. Josh can vouch for me. Is Shaner also on the Bohm?
Shaner has been texting me saying Bohm for president.
Okay. I didn't say that you didn't say that, Shaner. I don't know. I don't, there's not many of you, though. There's not many people that were on the Bohm train with me.
Nope, not many.
Not many. And there's still people that are still saying that he's not good.
There's still the skeptics out there. Yep.
Yeah, I think those people are they want more home runs.
Really quick, because I'm looking at the MVP odds, Mike. So Harper and Bohm are two of the top six. Mookie Betts and Ohtani are also two in the top six. What players do you think might draw more votes away from the other at this point?
Well, I would say that Harper would overshadow Bohm.
Right.
And because I think when it's all said and done, that, let me see where Harper's at right now. I think he's like 280 because he was like 240. He does lead the team in home runs, Bryce Harper, all of a sudden. He has 36 RBI, so he's less than 10 behind Bohm. He's at 280. His on-base percentage is 388, where Bohm's is 391. Their slugging and OPS are just about the same. Bohm's WAR is 2. Harper's is 1.8. So they're very comparable players right now. The only difference really is the batting average, where Bohm has him pretty good. So I think the home run power numbers for Harper is going to draw the votes away from Bohm. The other two guys, I don't know, man. Ohtani's having a pretty damn good year.
So is Betts, though. Ohtani's actually not the favorite. Betts is the favorite.
Crazy.
Betts is pretty easily ahead
not
of
to
Ohtani.
Go back down this road, but this whole Ohtani story with the teammate now getting involved in the betting, and apparently, what's the guy's name? David.
Not Erstad. David Fletcher.
David Fletcher. So apparently he was betting on games through eBay. Right. And apparently him and Ohtani were like best friends.
Yeah, they were like really good friends. They would hang out together.
Right. So they're suggesting, how would Ohtani not know that this guy was also involved?
It's a good question. And I think that the only thing Ohtani has going for him is
ignorance.
Yes, but I was going to say also the feds didn't, they determined that he wasn't involved.
I know, but it just seems so high, like so far-fetched that he could.
It does seem far-fetched, but I just feel like in today's world of wanting to get the headlines with athletes, like I feel like if the feds could have nailed Ohtani, they would have.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It just seems like so crazy to say that they got nothing there. I can't feel it. I can't figure that out for the life of me.
But back to the Bohm thing. The fact that he is not just hitting all these RBI, but the fact his batting average overall is so high, it's got to make you think that, man, can you imagine how much better he can get?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, but all these guys we're talking about are pretty young, except for who's the oldest of that group? Betts?
Betts is definitely well, let me check if Harper's older than Betts.
Oh, wait, somebody just texted me. A DH can't win an MVP. He won the MVP last year.
Right.
I mean, come on. What kind of question is that? What kind of comment is that? He also won the MVP in 2021. So he's won 2 MVPs, right? Ohtani has 2 MVPs. To my knowledge, I don't know that he's ever played.
He has 2. By the way, Harper.
Wait, hold on a second, real quick though.
Age.
But to my knowledge, Ohtani has never played an inning in the field. Right?
I'll double check that. I thought he was only just a pitcher and a DH. Ohtani does have 2 MVPs, by the way.
Right. But he didn't win the MVP as a pitcher last year. You know, he only pitched in 20 games.
Yeah, he only pitched in 20 games started, yeah. I'm going through he actually has played outfield, Ohtani. He does have games played in the outfield.
7.
Right.
He has played 7 games in the field in his career.
But he's mostly just been a pitcher and a DH.
Yeah. Now, the year that he won the MVP in 2021, he pitched in only 23 games. And last year he threw in 23 games, but he didn't pitch the entire, second half of the season.
He's an anomaly. You can't act like he's...
Right, but he didn't win the MVP based on his pitching last year is my point.
Right, he won it because of all the home runs he was hitting.
Yeah, exactly. So to say that a DH can't win the MVP is the most asinine thing I've ever heard. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Last year he hit .304 with 44 homers, and he was on a last place team. You're telling me he won the MVP because of what he did on the mound?
No.
I mean, he was 10-5 with a 3.14 ERA. It's not like he was Cy Young. And the year that he won the MVP, the first time on the mound, he was just okay. He was not, I mean, I'm not saying he was terrible. He was 9-2, but at 3.18 ERA, it wasn't like he wasn't like Cy Young material. So he wasn't even in the Cy Young voting in either year.
So according to MLB.com, Ohtani is the official first ever designated hitter to win an MVP, that he won as a designated hitter.
Yeah.
It's their designation.
Well, on Baseball Reference, his positions are listed as designated hitter and pitcher.
Right.
But he's not pitching this year. I got news for you. He's hitting .356. I don't think he has to throw a pitch this year to be considered for the MVP award.
Nope.
I mean, if .356 with a OPS of 1.080, a slug of .655, and I mean, I think he's safe to say that the voters will say, you know what? He hasn't pitched this year, but I still think he could be involved in the MVP voting. I have a hunch. By the way, I guarantee you when he won the MVP last year, not one person said, hey, you know what? He didn't finish the year pitching. Like, right. he didn't pitch he didn't pitch the last month or two.
That's basically a couple months, yeah.
And I don't think his first year when he won the MVP, did they look at his pitching?
He's had multiple pitching injuries, which have relegated him to being more of a DH than a pitcher.
Yeah, the year that he won the MVP in 2021, I mean, he was okay. I say he's okay. My point is he wasn't like Cy Young material. He didn't even get a vote in this. He wasn't top 10 in the Cy Young award. He won the MVP based on his DHing. I mean,
2021, he had a 3.18 ERA. It's not exactly elite right there.
No, he wasn't. Anything.
I mean, strikeouts to innings are pretty good.
Yeah, no, he's a good pitcher. By the way, he's a very good pitcher. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. We've got plenty more to come, including last night we saw an epic collapse in that game. That's all we could say. Yeah, choke job. I think it cost possibly the Pacers a chance to win that series. If they could have stole that game last night, you could have then started to get a little bit nervous. But without that game last night, now all of a sudden they blow that game and they are completely got to be looking at a complete missed opportunity. But we got a whole bunch tonight, game 1 of the Western Conference, by the way.
This is the series I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, definitely interested to see how Minnesota comes out. The Ringer ranked the 25 best players in the NBA age 25 and under. Okay?
All right.
Well, look at the top 10. You think Maxey made the top 10?
He should be in the top 10.
You think so?
I think he should be.
When I start naming some of these names, you think you're going to hear Maxey's name on it? Because there's some good ones on this list.
I think I will.
Stick around. I got that coming up next on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle and streaming live on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive. Today.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Never thought this radio stunt would catch on so big.
On 97.3 ESPN.
3:33, football at 4 in 27 minutes. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Streaming live on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive. Free mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. This hour of the show, it's brought to you by Broadlee's Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning. Broadlee's is your trusted source for heating and plumbing service installation for generations. Call 609-390-3907 online, broadlees.net. So last night we saw the Pacers fall in game one. They had that game, man. They had that game. I cannot believe the way that game ended last night. I cannot believe the way they choked that game up. We talk about like disappointing Sixer losses and things that happen in games, and then you watch it all over. You're like, how do you turn that ball over? I don't understand. In the fourth quarter, trying to inbound the ball. What are you doing? It happened a couple times, and you just couldn't get it in. And then Halliburton just completely turns the ball over in overtime. They don't foul in the three-point shot, and that's a great shot by Jaylen Brown, by the way. I mean, he absolutely shoots that in Pascal Siakam's face with not a lot of separation at all.
Dagger.
You wonder how he gets that thing up and then over and then in. It was crazy. But I will say, in that game last night, there was a player on the court listed as one of the top 25 players in the NBA under the age of 25. Now, I put the top 10. I copy and pasted their 10 guys. And one played last night. One will play tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I think one.
Probably two. Well,
yes,
maybe
two.
Yeah.
Two. So who would be on your list of the top 10? Now, they have a tie at 10, which I think is kind of
weak.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say number one is probably Anthony Edwards.
He is on the list. He is number 2.
Okay. I guess Luka then is number 1.
Luka's on the list. He is number 4.
Okay, so I guess Victor Wembanyama is pretty high on that list.
He is on the list. He is number 1.
He's number 1. See,
so Victor is number 1 in terms of the best player age 25 and under.
That's fair. I can see that. I was thinking more Ant Edwards and Luka Doncic because they have more of a resume right now.
Yeah. So he's 1, Ant Edwards is 2, Luka Doncic 3.
Okay, so we got the top 3 already.
No, I mean, he's 4. I'm sorry.
He's 4. Okay, well, Tyrese Halliburton has to be on the list.
Halliburton is number 5.
Okay, so we're missing number 3.
Yes.
All right, so who would be number 3? How about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander?
He is number 3.
Okay, so we got the top 5.
5 is all out. Victor Wembanyama, 1. Ant Edwards, 2. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 3. Luka Doncic, 4. Tyrese Halliburton, 5.
So here's where it gets a little interesting because I think it comes down to how do you – now this is the ringer, so it's not like super mainstream guys. So some of these guys, they might have a little higher or lower than I would because I said that I think Tyrese Maxey should be in this top 10.
He should be, yeah. I didn't say yes or no, but you can guess him if you'd like.
I'm guessing him.
He would be on the list at number 6.
Number 6, okay. I like that. And I think it's very fair, really quick, because don't you think, Mike, that Maxey is still ascending and that he has not fully shown where he's going yet, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all think that Maxey had a breakout year and is ready to now be a breakout player.
And I like the fact that he's at 6 because it gives him higher room for growth. That was kind of my thinking with guys like Luka, SGA, Ant Edwards. Like we're starting to see now what their ceiling could be. Whereas I think Maxey, the best is still to come in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, look, all these guys, they're all best. Hopefully for them is still to come. They're all under 25 years old.
Well, right, but some guys peak a little early.
Yeah, like Victor had a rookie year, and he was amazing.
Yeah.
And Edwards is now in his fourth year. A lot of these guys, they've been in the league pretty long now because a lot of these guys get in the league at 18, 19, 20 years old. Now it's more like they're like 20. But some of these guys, you know, Victor's 19 because he came over from France. He didn't have to play college. And Edwards is in his fourth year. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was in. What draft was he in? You know, Halliburton's a guy that I don't think a lot of people, when he came out of the draft, were all that, like, you know, crazy about, right?
No, I think he was a kind of an overlooked player.
Yeah, but he's turned himself. Now, okay, let me go with Halliburton. Would you rather Halliburton or Maxey?
Right now, I would go Maxey because I personally think Maxey's ceiling is higher than Halliburton right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think Halliburton's closer to his ceiling, and Maxey still has a ways to go.
So Halliburton is 5, Maxey is 6. There are 4, actually 5, because they have a tie for 10.
By the way, SGA was the 2018 draft.
That's a long time ago. I mean, he's been in the league for a while, SGA.
He is 25 right now. He actually turns 26 this summer, so he will no longer be on this list soon.
Crazy.
See, and I'm trying to do this from memory, but I'm going to guess that Jalen Brunson is too old for this list.
Jalen Brunson, yeah, he's I think 26 or 27.
26, 27, yeah. So he can't be on the list. Let me see here. I'm going through the league right now, trying to think of. Oh my goodness, what's his name up there in Detroit? Is Cade Cunningham on the list?
He is not. I would tell you this: 1, 2 of these guys are on the same team. And they're on the same team as one guy who's already been named. So you got 3 guys from one team on this list. 2 that you haven't named yet. One guy.
Chet Holmgren.
Chet Holmgren is number 7.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks for the tip.
Mm-hmm. He is number 7. He still has a teammate on this list. And then the other 3 guys are 9 and tied for 10.
Okay.
The one guy you forget about almost.
Thanks. That doesn't do me much.
He was routinely on this list, and he is still on the list, but he's number 10, but you almost forget about him. He's had some off-the-court stuff.
Off-the-court stuff? Well, first of all, the guy I just thought of right now is Lauri Markkanen on the list.
No Lauri Markkanen.
All right, so he must be too old then. Who has had some legal issues?
He's had some pretty big legal issues, like high profile.
The problem is my mind is thinking of football players now with legal issues instead of basketball players. I'm going to go, though, with a player in my mind. Now, he might be too old as well. Is Trae Young on the list?
No Trae Young.
So
Trae Young, I think, is a little older.
Yeah, he's got to be like maybe 27 then. How about Darius Garland?
Actually, Trae Young is 25. No Darius Garland.
Okay, so no Young, no Garland.
Nope.
So now I'm starting to dry up on the memory here. The guy down in Orlando, Paolo Banchero.
He is number 9. It was a good pull out of the right field there. The one guy, okay, so I'll give you one hint on each guy.
Okay.
The other guy I've given you 2 hints on already, but he's a teammate of the other 2 guys. I mean, he's another guy on the same team.
On the same team.
So I don't know much more I can give you than that.
Yeah, I'm feeling on that one.
Number 10, who are tied. One guy, I mean, he has had some of the highest profile legal issues to it that he has been suspended for this. And he has been routinely thought to be the top player of a young age group, and now he's kind of dropping a little bit. Mainly, I think, because of these off-the-court stuff. Because he hasn't played that much.
Okay. The guy in Houston.
No.
Oh, never mind.
No, some guy named Ja Morant.
Ja Morant.
Yeah. He's had a little off-the-court problems.
Wow, he's still that young, too.
Exactly. That's why I say you almost forget about him because he's been in the league so long.
Wait, if Ja's on the list, then Zion has to be on the list.
Zion is number 10 with Ja. They are tied.
Okay, interesting. Yes, in my
you
mind,
forget that both of those guys are still in that 25 bracket. John Morant feels like he's been in the league for 10 years.
Exactly. He feels like he's been in the league longer than half these guys.
John Morant, because think about when John Morant got drafted with Zion in the same draft, he was the 2, Zion was the 1.
Right.
And people were starting to say, Ja was the better player and the team had more success.
Yep.
He got Memphis, had been like a top 2 seed with him out there.
He turned them into a contender almost overnight.
Yeah, now, he missed like the first 25 games or something this year.
He was suspended for the first 25,
Yeah,
but then he got injured.
Right, and he's only 24 years old, by the way.
Oh, man.
So he is still going to be potentially on this list again.
The roof is the ceiling.
Next year. So, John Morant is 24 years old.
That's insane.
He's still on this list as one of the top players under 25, but he's all, but if I told you he was 7th in the MVP a couple of years ago, and the year after that he was 12th in the MVP. If I told you he averaged 26 points a game, 27 points a game, and this year he scored 25 points a game, but he only played 9 games this year. So this year's kind of out. But his last 2 years, 26 points a game and 27 points a game. If I were to tell you that Tyrese Maxey was going to be ranked on a list higher than Ja Morant, that's pretty darn aggressive, don't you think?
It is aggressive, but I think that, like you say, you think people are factoring other elements in.
Maybe. I'm just saying, like, you forget, I said, like, you forget that he's even, because he's been in the league for so long, it feels like, so you forget that he's under 25 years old. The team has had decent team success, not great team success. Zion's team has had no team success. No. So, I said this when Zion came into the league. Like, I was not a huge Zion guy. I think he has exceeded my expectations as an individual player. But as I said at the time, I don't think he was going to be a player. He was being billed as like a LeBron. Like, you draft this guy and your franchise is just going to turn over because you have this guy on your team.
Right.
And I just never saw that. It's not like New Orleans. They've become a good team. They're not a great team.
Definitely not.
They are basically a play-in team. So for as good as Zion, he has exceeded my individual expectations. But he is about what I thought they would be in terms of the impact he would make for the team that he's on. Like,
he is what you thought he would be?
He's a really good player. But he has not helped elevate that team to the next level.
It's true.
He's elevated them from non-playoff team to play-in team.
Right.
Or late, like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seed. That's not what you thought you were getting when you drafted him.
Definitely not.
Ja Morant, on the other hand, he elevated that team to, I think they were the 2 seed at one point.
Yeah.
I think at their height, Memphis was a 2 seed.
By the way, so am I missing one player on this list, I believe?
Yes. The guy that plays with Chet Holmgren and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Oh, my goodness. See, I'm blanking on his name. I see him in my mind's eye.
Your mind now has an eye.
You never heard that saying before?
Sure.
Thanks. What's his name? Is it Williams?
What's that guy's name? Williams? Jalen Williams.
Wait, hold on. Which Jalen Williams, right?
That Jalen Williams. The other Jalen Williams. There's your top 10 best players in the NBA under 25. Tyrese Maxey, number 6 on the list. Jeff Mosher, football at 4. Where does the Eagles offense rank in the league? You might be surprised by the answer to this. CBS Sports has the rankings. Knicks Nuggets tonight. All that and more. Sports Bash rolls on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Public utilities.
It's this Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
3:52 on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Streaming live on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive to find the show. This hour brought to you by Broadleaf's Plumbing, Heating, and AC. Broadleaf's your trusted source for heating and plumbing service and installation for generations. Call 609-390-3907 online at broadlees.net. I'm Mike Gill. Phillies lineup is out. Nothing crazy in there. Stott's back at second. Sosa's at short. That's about it. No Clemens tonight. No Merrifield either. How many nights in a row has Merrifield not played? So Merrifield getting the short end of the stick in the playing time here. I don't know that he's played 4 or 5 straight lineups that he has not been in. Tonight we got the Western Conference Finals Game 1. We just gave you the list of the top 25 players, actually the top 10. Dallas has 1, Luka Doncic. Minnesota has 1, Anthony Edwards. Which guy you taking? Ant Edwards, Luka Doncic, if you had to take one of those two guys.
Ant Edwards. He is evolving into what might be my favorite player in the league now.
Wow. Yeah. No, I think his attitude, his grit, he's fun, all that stuff. He's definitely a guy that you can get behind.
By the way, Merrifield, this is the 3rd straight game out of the line.
3 in a row. Okay. Football at 4's on the other side. No James Bradberry at OTAs today. What's the messaging there? Also, one player for the Eagles caught a lot of passes today from Jalen Hurts. We'll tell you who that is coming up on the Sports Bash. Plus, what did the secondary alignment look like when they lined up at practice today? You'll get that and more. Football at 4. Jeff Mosher is in the house from the Inside the Birds podcast. And that is next for Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and streaming on the X platform at 973 ESPN.
97.3 ESPN presents the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.
Just hungry to bring back another Lombardi to Philly. The fans deserve it. Our team deserves it. Culture begs for it.
Now live, this is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It is brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast. Set to join us coming up in just a couple of minutes here as Eagles OTAs are underway, and the OTAs give us a chance to see our friends out on the field and see what's happening out there, as obviously the Eagles getting ready for the next season here after a disappointing end of the 2023 season. We'll see what the 2024 group looks like. We basically, have an interesting storyline already starting off here at OTAs for the Philadelphia Eagles, and that James Bradberry not there. I don't know if that's a surprise or not, but let's start with that. We had a good conversation about that whole position yesterday. I want to bring Jeff Mosher into that conversation now as he joins us for another edition of Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget to check out the Inside the Birds podcast, which you can get on all podcasting platforms and their YouTube channel. Just search Inside the Birds. You're watching us live on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive, and you'll see Jeff Mosher is here. What's up, Jeff?
Hey, Mike. How are you? Nice summer day here. OTAs, football. That's what we're thinking about right now.
I know. Do you think the Eagles would like it to be cooler? Like, it's the first day. We're all like, oh, it's nice out. Do you think today they would have liked a nice cool day? Or are they okay with the heat today? It feel like training camp out there.
I think that most people would probably love a 70-degree day, but I think the Florida guys, the guys from the South, guys from Texas, they probably think this is a walk in the park.
Right, exactly. This is like no big deal, right? All right, let's get into a couple things. Let's start off with the really, I don't know if it's the big news or not. Did you think James Bradberry was going to show up today, or are we surprised that he's not there?
No, I'm not surprised at all. I don't know that it benefits him, and I don't know that it benefits the Eagles for him to be there. When we talked last week and did our sort of too early 53-man roster projections, we looked at this crowded house and said if Quinyon Mitchell is anything decent, like he should be the starter next to Darius Slay, and that really creates an odd situation for James Bradberry. I never felt Bradberry would be on the 53, especially after they took 2 corners or 2 defensive backs in the first 2 rounds of the draft. So no sense in getting him hurt, right? Getting an injury at OTAs, that wouldn't benefit the Eagles, wouldn't benefit him. So keep him bubble wrap right now.
All right. So no Bradberry. the first guy out there seemingly was Isaiah Rodgers. No Quinyon Mitchell, no Cooper DeJean. What about Isaiah Rodgers? Some people thought maybe, okay, because the three guys that I saw anyway being tossed out there were Slay, Maddox, and Rodgers. Slay and Maddox, okay, they sound like the right guys. So why Rodgers on the outside? Where do you see Rodgers on this team?
Well, first of all, Isaiah Rodgers missed all last year. He needs a lot of reps. He needs to show what he can do. He needs to show that he hasn't fallen behind a lot. And secondly, it's not very often that a rookie gets tossed out there on the first team. Even first-round picks, Mike, don't often get out there with the first team immediately on the first set of 11-on-11, 7-on-7. So I'm not surprised that it was Isaiah Rodgers. James Bradbury's not there. Quinyon Mitchell. I think Kelee Ringo is also not there, if I'm correct. So could they have maybe put Eli Ricks out there? Maybe. But, obviously Rodgers is more veteran than any of them. He just didn't play last year because he was suspended. So now he's not. Now you shake the cobwebs off, get him out there and see what you got.
Yeah, so the other guy then would be Cooper DeJean, and we're all kind of, I think to me that's one of the biggest kind of mysteries, if you will. I broke it down like this, Jeff Mosher. I don't know if I was talking to you about this on Monday or not, but I'll bring it back up. Is because you got Bradbury. We don't know what's going to happen. Let's assume he is here, and we're at training camp. Is he the first guy on the depth chart?
I don't know. We'll see.
You think Bradbury shows up and then they say you're entering second or third?
That's a good question, Mike. We'll just have to see. I guess if he's there and he's in training camp and he's on the 53, he's out there with the first team. That would probably make sense.
Okay. So then Bradbury to me was the first guy on the depth chart. He has the chance to lose the job. You then drafted a guy, Quinyon Mitchell, ahead of Cooper DeJean. So you said we value that guy more than this guy, who we said we had a first-round grade on. So you could have taken him. You took another guy at that position. So I can't imagine Cooper DeJean is higher on the depth chart than Quinyon Mitchell is right now. So at best, he's the third outside corner. Okay. We keep hearing outside corner. What about inside corner? If Avonte Maddox is healthy, I would imagine he is not performance-based that he would be replaced. His is health-based generally, correct?
Generally, but I'm not of the opinion now that he can't be beat out by the job by performance. I mean, he is a good corner. He didn't play great when he came back from an injury, but the injury, you can't have the conversation about him without the injury.
100%.
Even if it's even, or even if you feel, so this has been done before. I remember when this is just an example, right? You remember Brandon Boykin? I think Chip Kelly brought him in, right? Georgia kid. I think he was a third. I forget where they drafted him, maybe fourth round. He was impressive enough in mini camp and OTAs to bump Joselio Hansen out of a job. At the time, Joselio Hansen was still probably the better player. He had played in the league for many years. He was a very good nickel, but that's where the business comes in. You have a young player who you say may not be as good as that nickel now, but give me one more month. Give me that salary, that rookie salary compared to what, Joselio was making at the time in the middle of a contract, and we'll live with the growing pains. So I don't think Avonte Maddox, by experience alone and by pedigree alone, is locked into anything. And I don't think even if he's the best nickel corner in camp that he automatically gets the job. I think there are other factors that could unseat him.
All right, fair enough breakdown, but I'll just say, okay, Maddox is here. He's been good when healthy. All right.
Yeah.
You then have Tyler Hall, who has experience playing that position. Do you throw Isaiah Rodgers in that mix or no?
Well, I got to first see them put Isaiah Rodgers in at nickel, right? I mean, it's always been sort of an assumed thing ever since the Eagles got him, because the Eagles have had more of a future need at nickel, right, than outside. And that he's short. You think he's 5'9", and I think that has kind of typecasted him as an ideal nickel. But as we say all the time, with the Indianapolis Colts, he was an outside cornerback. So until I see the Eagles work him in at nickelback and more than just a rep here and there, until I see them take a serious look at it, I can't really throw him into the mix. But I think if you want to just have the conversation, sure, he'll probably get some look in there, and we'll see.
Okay, so that's three guys potentially in the slot that all have, some NFL experience that Cooper DeJean does not. So
correct.
He's either the third outside guy or somewhere in the mix with three other guys for the inside corner spot. They want to get him on the field. I don't know where it doesn't look like it's outside corner or the inside slot right away, but I still feel he'll be on the field in some capacity. And everybody says, why does everybody assume he's going to play safety? Okay, I'll play along. He won't play safety. Then what?
Well, he's a second-round pick. I mean, he's a guy who, and again, I'm not going to make much of OTAs because OTAs are literally let's just try anything to see, right? And not that can't happen, but that was sort of at the end of OTAs last year. All right, let's see if Nolan Smith can play some off-ball linebacker. Okay, it was an experimentation. Now it did actually wind up happening, so it's a good thing that they did. But it wasn't like that was his primary job. It was just they were in a pinch and they tried him out there. We'll see in training camp, but I would not be surprised if in training camp you see Cooper DeJean, second team outside cornerback. There's two outside corners, right? So that means he's among your top four. If he's a second team outside corner, it wouldn't shock me at all to see him getting run in the slot, first team slot, second team slot, and then we'll see if they even work him in at safety. I think he said
he did
that they told him they were going to work him in at every single spot and see where it works.
Yeah, he did mention that, hey, they did kind of mention safety, but and some return stuff, but that his first spot would be outside safety. I just feel like, a lot of people they traded up to get him. It seems like they really targeted to get this guy. They had a first-round grade on him. How do we get you on the field? Now, we had talked about on Monday's show or yesterday's show that, his own college website listed him as a Leo. I don't know what position that is in the NFL. Do the Eagles have a Leo? What do you, so is there a player on this defense that is losing field time because they want to find a way to get him on the field?
It's a good question.
Is it Nakobe Dean? Was he not there today?
I did not see because he's still coming back from the injury. I don't think he was there today.
Because Andrew tweeted out the linebacker pairings, and he was not in any of the three pairings. So I figured he was just not there.
Yeah, I think they want him to be 100% and don't need him out there in the OTAs. He may do a little bit at the end of it. We'll see. I think possibly somebody could lose some time. It could be Reed Blankenship as a safety. It could be we want to play a dime and have, 6 defensive backs on the field. So we're only going to have one linebacker on the field, a 4-1-6 kind of look. So it could be a myriad of players who aren't seeing time because of Cooper DeJean being on the field.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Is Nakobe Dean the guy that's often Devin White's just the one linebacker, and then they have Cooper just kind of roaming all over this way. One play he's on the line, one play he's playing slot, one play he's playing nickel, one play he's playing kind of dime. Do they feel enough confidence that they're just using him as kind of like a chess piece here and not using that extra linebacker? That's the one scenario I guess you could say that's how he gets on the field a lot. I just don't know how you get him on an outside corner ahead of all the other guys right now in front of him, everything's fluid unless that changes.
Yeah, and I don't think that they really need or have a desire to put him there. I think they're going to want to play him where they need bodies and they need talented bodies, and nickel and interior defender, safety, if you want, in some packages is areas where they could use good athleticism, quickness, instincts, explosion, playmaking ability.
Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast. One of the things I think they got lost in the sauce last year, you got the coordinator fired, a new coordinator came in, you had some secondary major issues back there, breakdowns, big plays, was that Jalen Carter had a great start to the season and then kind of slowed up a little bit. You wonder how much all the coaching turnover and all that kind of factored into the role that he had, the way that they used him, and why his impact in the second half wasn't nearly, he was like, he looked like an all-pro for the first 8 to 10 weeks of the season.
Yeah. And now, we said it was interesting how Vic Fangio talked about his conditioning. Now, I know he spoke today and said he's loving Vic Fangio so far.
Yes.
He's a really talented player, Mike. I think conditioning is probably The only thing, and that's only, again, at Georgia, they rotated so much. It's not like his weight is as much of an issue as, say, Jordan Davis's was. So as long as his head on straight, as long as he can hold up and play the reps, I don't think there's too much of a question about his ability to fit into the defense or to appease the defensive coordinator. If he keeps playing violently like he did last year and keeps it up, you're not a rookie anymore. It's your second year. No Fletcher Cox. You have to be dominant from start to finish. That's a big part of what he needs to be this year.
Yeah, and he's going to be one guy that I find that we'll see what kind of jump he makes in year number 2 here, because, as you said, he mentioned it, because, there's been a lot of talk about Vic Fangio. The Dolphins players took another shot at him the other day, specifically in the secondary, saying, that, hey, what's different with the new defensive coordinator, Weaver? And he's a lot more personable. He's talking to the guys, a much better personality. And you get those young guys who we were talking about this the other day, is that, like, some of these younger players, they want the coach to be their friend, right? They don't want to be coached hard. They want a friend, not a coach. And Vic Fangio doesn't want to be your friend. He wants to be your coach.
Right. There was definitely some shade, right, being thrown at Vic.
No doubt.
And, I had a conversation with someone about this, and I'm like, Vic has been coaching for a long time, like 2 decades, right? This is the first that I can remember that his players have either thrown him under the bus, or I know Drew Rosenhaus said some things earlier in the offseason about how the Dolphins aren't sad to see him go. This is the first time that I can really remember any team or set of players from a team really calling out Vic Fangio. But now you got to consider the source. Like, what have the Dolphins done? Like, where are all their Super Bowls and playoff wins to sit here and say this guy's not a good fit for us? If anything, they've underperformed. Now I sound like a big Vic Fangio cheerleader, and I'm not trying to be. What I'm just basically saying is I just find it very strange in a guy's career where Vic Fangio has had top 10 defenses. He's also had bottom 10 defenses. This is the first time you've ever heard an outspoken group of people kind of bash him like that. And yet the people who are, what have they accomplished where they feel like it's okay to say this guy didn't treat us well? Or, I don't know. Jim Johnson didn't win a whole lot of awards for being everybody's chum, but people liked him because he told it like it is. So if that's all Vic does is tell it like it is and tell you as a player what you need to do to be better, that's what all the best players I've ever talked to have ever said they wanted from a coach. Show me how I can be better. Right? If he's not doing that, then I get the criticism.
Well, and Fangio said,
don't like the message, that's on them.
Fangio said when he got introduced was the players aren't different. It's right. The expectations around them have lessened. Like, we're not allowing them to do more. I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, he kind of did stand up for today's player. Like, no, these players, they want to be coached harder. We're not allowed to coach them harder. So they want to be better. They want to be coached harder. So listen, everybody's person. I talked about it earlier, Moshe, in that, you could work for Barstool and say, this isn't my cup of tea. These guys are a little too fratty for me. You can go work for, Inside the Bird and say, these guys are a little bit more chill. There's not as quite as fraternity type of thing. You guys are doing similar type of things. They just might like your atmosphere better. Other people fit better in that other atmosphere where they might say, hey, the Inside the Birds guys, they're a little too buttoned up. It's a little too, stiff here. I want to go have a little bit more fun, telling poop and fart jokes over here. Like, like it's just it's not everybody's cup of tea. And, the Miami guys, for whatever reason, Vic wasn't their guy.
Yeah. I mean, look at the Patriots. I don't know how many Patriots players, especially the defensive ones, right? Over the years would say they'd want to go get a beer with Bill Belichick. I don't know. I never heard anyone say, I love this guy's a real fun guy to be around, right? No, they've always actually said the opposite, but none of them have ever questioned his ability or his greatness as a defensive mind and a defensive coach. They've praised it. So you can simultaneously acknowledge that a guy is a little rough around the edges and not your cup of tea, but he can make you better and you would want to play for a guy like that.
Would you think that the secondary guys are happy about this decision? Slay, I don't know what you do with Bradbury, but I said, Slay, Bradbury, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I mean, they all had their best years ever playing for John Gannon, and I would imagine that a lot of the stuff will be somewhat similar.
I mean, Vic plays a lot of zone, and defensive backs typically like to play zone because their eyes are on the quarterback, and it gives them a chance to make plays on the ball instead of running around with receivers and tight ends and you're back to the ball all the time. Slay is a good question only because he didn't get along really well with Matt Patricia, but I'm not trying to put Vic Fangio in a Matt Patricia box either. I don't think that's fair to Vic Fangio. I mean, Matt Patricia was known for not really treating his players well in Detroit, and that seemed to be a common theme coming out of guys who coached under Belichick in New England, trying to bring that like they earned something already to other cities. And again, this is just the first time that I can remember where guys have really come out and said, this is how we don't like Vic Fangio. If you go talk, I've heard interviews with Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis and guys from that San Francisco team that was so good that Vic Fangio was the defensive coordinator for, and they didn't bash him. They said that he was a very good defensive coordinator who knows a lot about the game. So I just don't want to take this one incident here in Miami and label his career,
Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast. Do you put any impact on the Parker retiring here? Like, is this like something, or do you look at it like, not that big of a deal?
I mean, I think it's a little significant in that, like, he's a good player when healthy. Not a great player, but he's a guy who can go in there if Devontae Smith gets hurt or A.J. Brown gets hurt and give you snaps, and he knows how to use his body, and he can make contested catches, which, we've seen Jalen Hurts get better at throwing it up to his guys. And now, I mean, just look at today, right? Who wasn't there? Devontae Smith isn't there, okay? So now you're looking at a team that has A.J. Brown, Joseph Ngata, and Paris Campbell as your top three. Like, that just shows you, his retirement shows you how thin they are in the backup tank. And, A.J. Brown missed the playoff game last year. Generally, he has stayed healthy. Devontae Smith has been healthy. But you just never know. And you want to have depth at this area. You want to have veteran depth. And Paris Campbell, unfortunately, while maybe a nice backup, is a guy who also gets hurt quite a bit, too. So if you want a really scary idea of what the Eagles' receiving corps would look like if just one of the two starters gets hurt, go read the tweets from OTAs and see Joseph Ngata and Paris Campbell in there.
Usually this is the time of the year where you find a young receiver who's like the new, used to be Mr. Lehigh,
Yeah. Mr. Lehigh? Yeah.
Who will be the candidate for that job this year?
Oh, that's going to be Johnny Wilson. I mean, when I'm a 6'7" guy in 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s is a quarterback's best friend, right? There's no pass rush. It's a nice big target. You're going to get plenty of space wide open in the middle. I remember Jordan Matthews' first year, and everybody thought he was going to be Terrell Owens because he was wearing 81. And Mark Sanchez, or I think that was his guy, whoever it was, threw the ball to him like 11 straight times in a row. Why? Because he just gets open in the middle of his zone, catches the ball, and that's all you need in 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s.
It's funny. The last thing I want to get from you is a lot of talk about Jalen Hurts throwing the ball to Saquon Barkley today. Is that something that we're going to see added to the offense this year in your mind?
Well, you better. I mean, that's certainly part of the plan when you pay Saquon Barkley that kind of money and you bring that kind of skill set into the offense. But just because it happens in practice doesn't mean it's going to happen in the game. You hope that it does. You got to see it when they say the game is real to know that it's going to matter. There was one year when they got Darren Sproles. I remember they threw like 11 wheel routes to Darren Sproles in a row in a training camp practice. Doug was really dialing that one up, and I don't remember seeing it that much in a game. I mean, they did throw to Sproles, but not with the frequency that you saw it in camp.
All right, Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Jeff Mosher, of course, OTAs continue tomorrow, and we'll have plenty more on the OTAs as they continue on. They'll also be off after tomorrow. They'll be back on May 28th, May 30, and May 31st. So still a bunch more days for them to get outside and for us to overanalyze and micromanage everything that happens at the NovaCare complex. But hey, it's Eagles football. That's what we do. We're looking forward to it. Moshe, we talked about it. Memorial Day weekend's here, so now you're in June. As soon as you get through June, you're into training camp month, right? So football's essentially back, right?
Don't you rush my summer, Mike. Don't you do it.
I won't.
I dare you to ask Andrew DeCecco tomorrow when you have him on if he charted quarterback snaps and pass attempts.
I'll put that on the list, all right?
All right.
All right, man. Jeff Mosher, everybody.
See ya.
All right, take care. Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast. And, of course, you can get that on all podcasting platforms. Just search Inside the Birds. And he joined us here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming live on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SB Live to find the show. We got a lot going on, but before we get there, I want to tell you about my friend Rocco over at Acura MDX, and that's Key Acura of Atlantic City. You can get into an Acura MDX. It's easy to do. All you got to do is stop out there, ask Rocco. For just $4.99 a month with $49.95 down, he can get you in a brand new Acura Integra, just like that. Or he can get you in the good old Acura Integra, $345 a month, $39.95 down. That's it. No hidden fees, no extra charges. That's a thing of beauty. Sometimes you get out there, hey, it's going to be, you got to put this much down. We'll get you this payment. Oh, by the way, you owe an extra what? What do you mean? Well, tax, tags, this fee, that fee, dock fee. I don't want any of those fees. I'm out on the fees. What I also like is the Saturday service hours. You know what the hardest thing to do is? I need an oil change, but I don't have anybody to drop me off, take me where I go, then bring me back and get my car. Well, they have loaner cars for you. Not a lot of these dealerships have the loaner car fleet that Key Acura does. They have about 15 or more in stock. This offer ends on May 31st, so see dealer for details. That's Key Acura of Atlantic City on Tilton Road in EHT. Tell them Mike Gill from the Sports Bash sent you.
Summer concerts, pool parties, chill nights under the stars. We're stocking up our closet so you're ready to look your best for all of it. At Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston, we're buying all things summer. So bring in your tees, tote bags, sandals, sunglasses, and more. We pay cash on the spot for gently loved name brand looks. Plato's Closet is the go-to destination for trend-forward teens and young adults who support local and shop sustainable. Visit Plato's Closet today. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
Mike Gill.
And I am the voice of the voiceless.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Sports Bash, 431. I'm Mike Gill. Knicks Nuggets in just a second. Nick Earnshaw's back with another edition of the Nuggets. We've got, Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals tonight after the Pacers blew Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Bills tonight, Ranger Suarez last night throws a dandy of a game. All that, and Eagles OTAs are underway. What does Nick Earnshaw have in the Nuggets today? Let's find out as Nick Earnshaw is back with another edition of Nick's Nuggets here on the Sports Bash. What's up, Nick?
What's going on, Mike? Nice to see you on this Wednesday afternoon. And, I got to start the Nuggets. How about last night in our Phils? Ranger Suarez with a gigantic start. We talked about it yesterday, how big of a start this was for him. He comes in 7 innings pitch, 10 strikeouts. He was dominant, 1 earned run as well. He's the only pitcher in history with a sub 1.50 ERA, 65 or more strikeouts over his first 10 appearances. I mean, this guy is putting up statistics that we can't even imagine to start this season this year. He has now moved into the top 3 in Cy Young odds right now, Mike. I mean, how crazy is it that Zach Wheeler is number 1? You have Ranger right on his heels. He's at number 3 across most of the books. Can Ranger overtake Zach Wheeler at some point this season? Is that going to be a real possibility? Are they going to be fighting it out, Mike?
Well, here's the thing. A lot of times this is done based on, history and your background and your reputation is really the top thing here. Suarez doesn't have the reputation yet. Wheeler does. No. Not that Wheeler's ever won the Cy Young, but he has been a favorite. He's been in that conversation. And right now, out of everybody, he's the most recognizable, biggest name of the group. Suarez is the new kid on the block. So I think that Suarez is going to have just an epic, historical, memorable thing. And to do that, I think you have to have a lopsided win-loss total. Because in this day and age, the win-loss thing isn't as big as it used to be. So, guys who could be 15-7, but have just an unbelievable ERA, a great whip, a lot of strikeouts, and they get recognized for that. Whereas 15-7, it's not, and I'm not saying it's wrong. Win-loss shouldn't matter. But if you get a guy that goes 20-3 or 24-6, something to that effect, that is a win total and a win-loss record that will catch the voters' eyes, I think. And if his other numbers, the ERA and the WHIP, are better than Wheeler's, which they are right now, the win-loss record will eventually, if it's gaudy enough, that will be what passes him over. Now, if Zach Wheeler goes 15-7 or he's 18-6 or something like that, is that enough wins for Wheeler to do the job? I don't know. But I think if Suarez does something like win 20 games or he's 19-3 or something where the disparity is that great, that's how I think he can win it.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is that he's a guy doing this. He doesn't have overpowering stuff, right? We're in the age of high velo, power pitching, right? And Ranger Suarez isn't really that type of guy. He's not going to overpower you with a fastball. He's going to go out there, work both sides of the play, keep the ball down, and that's what he's been able to do, Mike. Like, he has been able to do this in a league where power pitching is at a premium, and that's who the guys you mainly see at the top of these Cy Young odds. And Wheeler, we know he's got a lot of velo too. He can overpower you. Ranger isn't a guy who really does that. I think that's another aspect of this that has to be taken into consideration, the era that we are in right now, and he's been able to do it.
Yeah, well, he's the anti-velo guy. He's the guy that says, don't look at my radar gun, look at my results. He's the guy that everybody yearns to get. Everybody is chasing velo, and we always laugh and joke. Nobody cares how hard you throw ball four is kind of like in the coaching circle of every kid trying to see how hard he can throw, and all these ridiculous places having juiced up radar guns telling kids they're throwing harder than they really do. And I say, that's great that you throw 85 miles an hour at the age that you are, but you can't throw strikes.
Right.
Ranger Suarez, I'll take that guy throwing 75 miles an hour, but he's throwing the ball over the plate. That's the thing that gets lost in everything, is everybody wants to be the workout gun hero, but doesn't care about results. Ranger Suarez is getting results right now. And by the way, another guy who is not a big velo guy, and I know he's a controversial name to bring up in this conversation, is Aaron Nola. He's a 92 guy, but he hits his spots. He knows how to pitch. These guys know how to pitch. They're not throwers. They're not velo heroes. They're pitchers. And that's why the Phillies have the best team in baseball right now.
Yeah, they have pitchers who have control and command. That has been huge, and that's why Ranger Suarez has been able to elevate himself this year. He's been fantastic, but able to command his pitches, control his pitches, and that can get away from guys who were trying to overpower you with stuff, who can't throw strikes. Ranger's throwing strikes. He's hitting his spots where JT sets up. It makes it easy for a catcher when you're hitting your spots. And JT's talked about that before throughout the season.
It makes it easy for the catcher. You know who it makes it really hard for? The hitter, who's not used to a guy pounding the strike zone, throwing spots, sawing his hands off, hitting corners, painting spots. Look, if I were to pick one pitcher that I would say I want to emulate and have my pitchers be like, it would be Greg Maddux. Greg Maddux was the greatest pitcher that I ever watched pitch. He was so efficient. He was so smart. He was so good. And he would beat you throwing 88 some days. I mean, he was just so much better than everybody else in terms of being a pitcher. Was he the hardest thrower? Of course not. But he could throw every pitch at any time, and that's what made him the best pitcher that I ever saw in terms of the complete package.
Yeah, if you're able to hit your spots and utilize your secondary pitches to your advantage, that's what Ranger's been able to do. And when you have guys like that, you don't need to have the 99 miles an hour. If you can't throw strikes, you're not going to be successful. And Ranger's proven that theory well. And also, I think the Phillies pitchers have thrown the most innings this year and have gone the deepest into games this year, and that's something to be.
Well, that's why Wheeler's racking up wins. Is he's getting 7 innings. He's pitching deep enough into games where he is handling his own fate. He's not getting out early in the game and turning his fate over to the bullpen. That's why these guys' win totals are so low. They're leaving the game in the 5th, and the bullpen blows the game for them. They haven't even gotten out of the 5th, so they can't even earn the win. Rangers saying, And these Phillies pitchers, I'm going to take care matters into my own hand. I'm going to make sure that I get deep enough in the game so that I can get credit for the win.
Right. Totally. Now, I got to move the nugget number 2. I'm staying with the Phillies here. We're talking about the Cy Young. We've talked about it ad nauseum throughout this early part of the season, right? Zach Wheeler's been in the conversation. Rangers up there. Even Nola's, up there in the conversation with those odds as well. What about the MVP race? Now, I looked at some of the MVP odds right now across all the books. Bryce Harper's 4th. I feel like he's been a little bit going under the radar with an MVP-like season this year, right? So he's 4th across all the books. Alec Bohm is 7th right now. Bohm is 2nd in RBIs in the league. With 44, he's 5th in batting average. And then slugging in OPS, Harper is tied for 12th. Bohm is 14th. And then with OPS, 13th and 14th, it's Harper then Bohm. So these guys are putting together MVP type seasons. We talked about the bats. Will they get going, et cetera, to start early on in the year? They've gotten it going. We've only really talked about the pitching in the Cy Young race. I'll tell you what, Harper and Bohm are in that MVP race right now. So you have 2 guys who are in the Cy Young race in the top 10 as well, or the top 3, I should say now, and then in the top 10 for the MVP race. I mean, I don't think that's being talked about enough, like the Cy Young races.
Well, we talked about it earlier in the fact that you have the 1 and 2 guy in some markets for pitching, and now I said I thought Bohm was probably the highest. Apparently, Harper's a little bit better odds on Harper, but Harper, I think, is going to start cruising up the list. If you want to jump on him, you might as well jump on him now. If the Phillies run away and win this division or have a historic season, you would think that the best player on this team has to be acknowledged for the MVP. So if you want to get Harper, I would jump in on him now. I think he's about 1,200. Bohm is about 1,500. He's going to beat Bohm because of the power numbers. At the end of the day, Bohm's hitting like 330. Their on-base percentage is similar. Their slugging's about the same. Their OPS is around the same. The RBIs go to Bohm, but they're not that far off. The power numbers is the difference. Harper's got 11. Bohm only has 4 or 5. And at the end of the day, if Harper hits 30, 35, Bohm's only going to hit 20 or 22, somewhere in that range. And that's where he'll end up getting bit. So the guy on this team that you want to put the money on right now would be Bryce Harper.
Yeah, for sure. And then some books you have plus 2,000 for Alec Bohm too. So he's even lower in some books.
I like Bohm. I think Bohm is just a professional hitter, man. He's got a great approach. He's a smart guy. He uses all fields. Bryce Harper said, when I show video to my son, I want to show him video of Alec Bohm, how to hit. But his power numbers are not going to be MVP level. That's the problem for him.
Yeah, it's going to be the home run numbers that aren't going to be that kind of get him over the edge. Harper could have those numbers by the end of the season. If things continue, he stays healthy, that could be huge for Harper to move up in the rankings because he's about 4th right now behind Ohtani. Betts is 1st, Mookie Betts, and Willie Contreras is 3rd. So those 3 guys are ahead of him at the moment, but Harper could easily jump up ahead of those guys, I think, at some point throughout the season, because you still have a long while to go. It's only May, so there's a lot of time, but I thought it's interesting. We've talked a lot about the Cy Young race. The MVP race, been a little bit less talked about. Harper and Bohm are in the top 10 in that right now. So I thought that's pretty interesting because those guys are having huge seasons. I mean, you have Bohm just driving run after run. And like you mentioned, that's a guy you want to show everyone how to swing a bat. That's the guy, that's the tape you watch because he has such a beautiful swing. And he's just been driving in runs all season. He's kind of taken that next step offensively, and that's been huge for the Phillies' success as the season has rolled along.
Yep, no doubt about it. And Bohm, by the way, 2 more ribbies last night. And I know Harper had the home run and the double, but Bohm went right there with them, hit a double, and knocked in 2 runs. And look, I don't know when the cold streak's coming for Bohm. He had a little cold streak about 2 weeks ago. But man, he's having a, I said, the reason why the Phillies are doing what they're doing, Wheeler's been really good. Nola's been really good. Harper's been pretty good. Turner got off to a good start. But you have guys, Suarez and Bohm, that you didn't expect. They are exceeding expectations. Before this season started, we asked the question, what player do you think will exceed what they did last year? Suarez and Bohm have done that.
Yep, they have been the two guys that have been much better than last year, much better improved, and they've taken it to a whole new level. All right, nugget number 3, final nugget of the day. All right, we talked about Paul George yesterday. Shams Charania reporting that, he probably is going to stay in L.A. There's a growing belief around the league that he stays with the Clippers. Now you have Kevin O'Connor going on the Bill Simmons podcast from The Ringer saying the Sixers believe they have a real chance to get Paul George. We're seeing all these back and forth reports, Mike, about Paul George. I don't believe free agency starts until the end of June. I mean, what is going on with all these reports about Paul George and the Sixers? I mean, they've been tied together kind of like James Harden and the Rockets last year. Then he ends up with the Clippers, the whole nonsense. Are the Sixers really going to get Paul George and give him that max? It seems like the Clippers don't really want to give him that max contract.
This story and all these free agent stories, Nick, they're going to just keep circulating until the season ends. I mean, this is what the NBA is. It's a back channel of cesspool of like rumors that go around from agent to agent to agent to podcast to podcast to podcast that all want their client's name out there.
Yep.
Yeah, we had Keith Smith on Monday's show, and he said he thinks Paul George goes back to L.A. Others will think, hey, the Sixers are going to make a play there. I've seen other people suggest, and Ann Begley from the New York Post, SNY, said he thinks the Sixers are going to go after OG Anunoby. Yep. So you're going to start to hear the names. The Sixers have all the money. So the team that has the money can make the most calls. And if you can make the most calls, the most rumors are going to be connected to you. So this offseason is going to be hot and heavy, man. It's going to be a quick, it's going to be a crazy, keep your head on the swivel here of names getting thrown at you. But Paul George is the biggest free agent. So his name's going to be attached because the Sixers have money. If the Sixers didn't have money, his name wouldn't be attached. It's because they can offer him the most money, and that's the thing here. So anything I hear, I'm not going to be surprised at this point.
Now, Bleacher Report put out an interesting graphic I thought was hysterical to see. They put out a graphic of a Sixers potential starting lineup. I don't know if you saw this. It was Joel Embiid, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, and then they snuck in Tobias Harris into that lineup. I thought it was hysterical that Bleacher Report put out that lineup. There is no way Tobias Harris would fit in that lineup. That lineup doesn't really make a ton of sense anyway. It's pretty goofy. But to have Tobias Harris in there, I think if you're a Sixers fan, you're like, whoa, what are we doing here? We're not getting Paul George and Tobias Harris.
No, I can't see a scenario where that happens. I mean, that's an epic troll job there by Bleacher Report to say, hey, you know what, let's just troll and watch all the comments from the Sixers fans when we say, look, Tobias Harris is coming back here. I see no shot. The only way I see him coming back is if he takes like a veteran's minimum and the Sixers feel like, hey, for $4 million or whatever the vet minimum is, we can justify that. Even that's a tough sell to the fans. But I think you can at least, because at the veterans minimum, I don't know what that number is for this coming season, but at the veterans minimum, you can at least justify not playing him if he's not playing well.
Right.
When you're making $39 million, it's hard to justify sitting him in key spots.
Yeah, sitting a guy who's making nearly max money in big moments, in playoff games. I mean, that's hard to do from a management standpoint. It just doesn't make much sense. So if you get him on a vet minimum, which I highly doubt he takes, he's going to get a decent paycheck somewhere. It's just not going to be in Philadelphia. Could be Detroit. We've seen the interest there. It's just not going to be here. It's hard to sit a guy like that. I can't see him taking a vet minimum to want to come back here. I think this is a relationship that is on the outskirts right now, Mike. So I thought it was a nice troll job by Bleacher Report right there to troll Sixers fans to throw in Paul George and then have Tobias Harris in there. It's a pretty goofy tweet for sure. Yeah,
I can see them all laughing right now with the answers, the comments section there. But hey, I am pretty solidly confident that he will not be back.
I'm 98% sure he's probably not going to be back. I'll leave a little bit of a door open. He can't sign anywhere else. They bring him back on a cheap deal.
That's my only way, right? That's my only way. It's on like the vet minimum, and he's like, you know what? I liked it here. But I even think he needs a break from here.
Yeah. I agree as well. All right. That's nugget number 3. Final nugget of the day. I gave you a 3-piece today, Mike. We'll see what I come with tomorrow.
Little 3-pack there of nuggets from Nick Earnshaw. By the way, we had some tasty nuggets today. The Decadence food truck stopped by the parking lot here today, and we had some nice spicy nuggets, a little spicy chicken sandwich. They stopped by right around lunchtime today. You should have been here.
Oh, man, you're making me jealous right now. You're making me jealous. That sounds pretty good to me. Next time I'm in the studio, you better save me some nuggets. Keep them in the fridge.
There's Nick's Nuggets with Nick Earnshaw here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Nick, see you later, man.
All right, Mike, have a good one.
All right, Nick's back tomorrow with more Nuggets here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Let me tell you about my friends at Progressive Fence and Railing. You know, it's Memorial Day weekend. You know what you want to do? You want to be sitting out on the porch and having a nice cold one. You can get that new porch, that new stylish deck. You can get an awning to put over top your porch. You can do it with my friends at Progressive Fence and Rail. They got the magic touch. They can come out and check out, survey the scene. They got impeccable craftsmanship. No question. Finance options that fit your budget. Not like, hey, man, come out. What kind of financing can we help you with here? They can do all that for you. Grab a free estimate. Visit ProgressiveFenceandRail.com. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. We got another hour and 10 to go, so stick it right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and streaming live on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
6 to the top of the hour, Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. We've got the NBA Western Conference Finals tonight. Game 1, Minnesota takes on Dallas. Luka Doncic and Anthony Edwards. Karl Anthony Towns, former number 1 overall pick. You know, I called one of his games one time at, what was he, at St. Joe Montvale, I think he played.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. They played against Atlantic City in the Tournament of Champions, I guess it must have been. The game was at Monmouth. He didn't do much in the game from what I remember. I think he got into some foul trouble. And
St. Joe Metuchen.
Metuchen. What'd I say? Montvale?
You said Montvale.
Yeah.
You had the M right, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, they played at Monmouth. And they played Atlantic City. I think it was like a Tournament Champions, maybe like a first-round game. He didn't do a lot. They had another guy, Wade Baldwin. Remember him?
Went to Pitt, didn't he?
No, Vanderbilt.
Went to Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt or Purdue? I think it was Vanderbilt. He played in the league. I thought he was going to be a better player in the league. He turned out to not be a better player. But he was the guy who really played well in that game, if memory serves. I don't think Karl Anthony Towns really killed them. He might have had a good game. I think he got into some foul trouble.
Vanderbilt was 17th overall pick in the 2016 NBA draft.
Yep. I think he played for Minnesota too, didn't he?
Played for the Grizzlies.
Oh, Memphis. There you go. Yeah, if you look that game up, I think it was Baldwin that had the better game than Karl Anthony Towns. But, yep. So Catman tonight, Catman and Ant-Man teaming up to take on Luka and Kyrie. You can hear all the action right here on 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, 5 o'clock hour is coming up next. Stick around. More Sports Bash on the way.
We have the...
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
Traffic.
You come with me.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
5:30. Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. We've got Big Three coming up in just a second. Bills tonight taking on Texas Rangers. They're 6 up on the Braves. So at this time last year, on this date last year, the Phillies were 7 backs to the Braves. You count the Braves out?
I wouldn't count them out because I think they are going to make some big trades with Denmark.
Wow, that's a bold statement. Just feeling?
I just look at that team and I see a team that knows they can be better if they had better pitching. Like consistently better pitching. You know, I think that long term, if you're the Braves, you can't honestly think that Morton and Sale and Lopez are going to solve all your problems. And Max Fried has shown that he has been inconsistent
Sale's been
in the
pretty
postseason.
Good.
How long is he going to be that good?
I don't know, but I mean, I don't know that they look at their pitching and say their pitching has failed us so far.
No, I mean,
their offense has been.
how much endurance does it have is what I'm saying. But the offense, the problem with the offense, Mike, is who do you swap in and out? It's like that team was one of the best offenses in baseball last year, and all of a sudden they're not. Like, are you going to turn around?
And that's what I'm saying is like I think their pitching's been good. Their offense has let them down. So I think if you're Atlanta, you're probably thinking that our offense is going to eventually come around.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That to me, I think the pitching is my concern because at some point I'm looking at the older guys on that staff and wondering when do the wheels fall off.
Yeah, I mean, look, not having Strider is a huge hit for them.
Massive.
Definitely big hit for them. Morton has pitched pretty good.
40 years old.
Yeah. Listen, Sale's been excellent for them. Fried's been okay. Lopez has been really good. I mean, so those 4 guys have been pretty good so far.
I thought that they're going to make a trade.
Okay.
Well, I see a trade coming.
Pretty definitive by you.
Doesn't mean I'm right, just it's my feeling.
Sale's 7-1 with a 2.22 ERA and a 0.86 WHIP. I mean, he hasn't been pretty good. He's been like Cy Young Award good if you didn't have Wheeler and
do you have all
Suarez.
the stats in front of you right now?
Yeah.
How many games did he pitch last year?
Sale last year?
Yeah.
In Boston. Let's see. He last year in Boston threw in 20 games.
So do we believe he's going to pitch more than 20 games?
Listen, he hasn't pitched more. In 2020, he didn't pitch at all. 2021, he pitched in 9 games. 2022, He pitched 2 games. Last year, he pitched in 20 games. He has 9 this year. So he needs 11 more to get there.
Do you believe he will pitch more than 20?
I don't have any reason to not think so. I know he had a lot of injury issues, and he was
tons of injuries.
Bad for coming back from that. But so far, he seems to be past that. I mean, maybe all the time that he's had off. Last year he was not great. I mean, that's not sugar-coated. I mean, he was just okay last year. I mean, I take that back. His ERA was not great. His WHIP was pretty good last year, 1.13. He had a pretty good WHIP. High strikeouts last year, low walks. I mean, he had some decent numbers last year. He only pitched.
I know when Sale is on, he's on.
Well, he's been really good. I'm not saying that you can trust him long term, but so far their pitching has not been their issue.
Mike, my first story with the Big Three is the latest on the NBA rights deal. So the Sports Business Journal has reported today that the NBA is formalizing media rights for ESPN, NBC, and Amazon. Now, here's the information that people need to know. ESPN is getting what is called the A package, which is the most games of any of the packages. They will continue to get the NBA Finals, weekly primetime games, as well as the WNBA and a conference finals. NBC is reportedly paying $2.6 billion for the B package, which would include a studio show, a few primetime games each week, and 2 playoff series. Now, the B package, because of the agreement, has to be offered to TNT's parent company, Warner Brother Discovery, as a courtesy of total value. They need to find out if they are willing to pay the total value. Now, the problem for Warner Brothers Discovery is that they, unlike NBC, don't have the money on hand. In fact, Warner Brothers Discovery, according to Sports Business Journal, is $40 billion in debt. So they do not have the $2.6 billion on hand to commit to a deal right now, which is potentially putting them in a situation where, because of how much money that they are in debt, they may have to go into bankruptcy, and that is why they cannot afford to keep the NBA.
Well, I saw it announced all over the place today that essentially that NBC has gotten the deal, and this will be the final season next year for Inside the NBA.
Next year, correct.
Yes, that they have next year with Inside the NBA with Charles, Shaq, Kenny, and Ernie, and then that will be it. It's going to be moving over to NBC.
For those who are wondering, the Amazon C package is worth $2 billion. It will reportedly be built around the in-season tournament, the play-in tournament, the WNBA, and Amazon is bidding with NBC for the other conference final that ESPN does not air, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the end of an era. 40 years, TNT, the NBA, Inside the NBA. What's going to happen with Charles, Shaq? Charles said today that he thinks Ernie's more likely to retire than go to NBC. NBC is announcing that this came out earlier today. That it's going to be Sunday night in America, like basketball. Sunday night basketball in America.
Basketball in America.
Like the playoff, the football. So you're going to get a Sunday night NBC game after the NFL season ends. So September, October, November, December, you'll get NFL on NBC. And then starting in, I guess, January or after January, maybe February, when the playoffs are done, you'll get Sunday night basketball. So it's going to be a completely, different thing. TNT has been the Thursday night. What's going to happen with Thursday night NBA? That's kind of been the NBA night for a while here.
Right.
So we'll see. I mean, the Inside the NBA, you wonder though, like if Kenny, Shaq, and that crew, Barkley, if they're like, you know what, is our last year, and it's kind of like a good way to go out, like knowing that this is it for us, because like, how else could we have seen that show ending? Like somebody leaving, retiring.
But this way they can write off into
this way, it's like, you know what? Like Charles has talked about for years, like I'm done, I'm going to retire.
Right.
And now he can kind of do that. I mean, I don't know, is ESPN going to pick him up? Is NBC going to pick him up? Is Prime going to pick him up? What's it, Prime? Amazon?
Amazon Prime, yeah.
We'll see. But, most of us listening have only known the NBA on TNT, Inside the NBA. And some of us do go back and remember the NBA on NBC.
Round Ball Rock.
But I'm telling you now, it's not going to be the same because it's already basketball night in America Sunday nights. It used to be Sunday afternoon. You get the 3:30 NBA game.
I mean, now according to the article I was reading for the Sports Business Journal, there is a potential that ESPN will still do the Sunday afternoon game, and then NBC would do the Sunday night game. So, what do you think about that?
What was the first part?
That ESPN ABC would still have the Sunday afternoon game. So
okay, so ABC has been doing the game this year because ESPN, ABC are parent companies.
Right.
Yeah, so you get the game on ABC in the afternoon and then NBC at night.
Almost like a football schedule.
Yeah, I just, if I'm NBC, do I want to go back to that Thursday night, that TNT kind of build up? What happens with Thursday night now?
That's a good question. What I do know is my second story, Mike, the reason why this is interesting is because last night's Pacers-Celtics Eastern Conference Final game averaged 6.43 million viewers across ESPN and ESPN2, including another 50,000 on ESPN Deportes. This is the largest Eastern Conference Final Game 1 viewership since 2018 when a guy named LeBron played for the Cavs, Mike. So the NBA, huge viewership last night is an increase of 8% over last year and 14% over 2 years ago.
Very surprising. Not a high-profile team in Indiana. How about you hear what Tim Legler said about this? He's like, I wish, there have been many times I want to go on ESPN and talk about, like, the Pacers, especially after they got Siakam.
Right.
And he was kind of told they're not sexy enough to talk about.
Yeah, and remember the other people who were accusing ESPN of being, like, so, Knicks-centric on the Sunday game. So, hey, listen, Legler, have at it. Go talk.
Yeah, he was on with Ryan Russillo. But yeah, I'm a little surprised by that number. I mean, I didn't think this was like some glamorous series. Boston, we know, is a good market for basketball. Indiana's a good basketball market, but not a big market. It's not a glamorous team. It was a good
it's
game
interesting you said that, Mike, because Indiana has now been in 2 of the 3 largest playoff audiences in the NBA playoffs this year. Last night's game and the Game 7 win over the Knicks are 2 of the 3 largest viewership of the entire NBA postseason, but nothing, Mike, has touched the Timberwolves Nuggets Game 7, which was over 8.4 million viewers. That was the largest viewership of the entire postseason. By the way, Minnesota traditionally and Denver also not major markets.
Yeah, well, that's one problem that you have here is every market here other than Boston. Dallas is a big market, but not known for basketball. It's not like a big basketball market. Minnesota, a very small market. Indiana, smaller market. So we'll see. A lot of people wondering how these ratings were going to do. It's kind of like the new wave of, you have no LeBron, you have no Steph, you have no Durant. You don't have those traditional stars that have carried the NBA in the post-Kobe era. Really, I mean, these are the post-Kobe guys.
Sticking with the television conversation, Mike, so it was reported earlier today, I first saw from Bruce Feldman, we were talking about this, Mike, is that ESPN is going to allow TNT Sports to air a couple of the college football playoff. Now, ESPN has the exclusive rights to the college football playoff, but with the expanded schedule, TNT is going to get a select number of early round games each year and potentially down the road have a quarterfinal or 2 as well. Now, it's interesting because we mentioned how Warner Brothers Discovery is in debt. But ESPN, TNT Sport, Turner Sports, and Fox Sports are all partnering on this Venue Sports streaming venture that will be released later this fall. The idea being that since all of these 3 are already working together, that now is the time to maybe show a little good faith, shall we call it, when it comes to working together. And this Venue Sports streaming platform, while the pricing has not been released yet, apparently this was part of the agreement when they are going to combine forces.
Well, we knew that as well, that ESPN, when they bought all these playoff games, that they were probably going to look to do this because they just didn't have the inventory space to put all these games. And quite frankly, a lot of these games are not going to be all that desirable. The 1 versus 8 game, what kind of game are you getting there?
Probably not a good one.
Probably not a good one. 2 versus 7, probably not a good one. If that's how they do it, right? That's how they're going to do it? 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5?
Well, remember, it's expanding to
12 teams.
Right, 12 teams.
So you're going to get, 5 versus 12?
Yeah, because there's going to be
the first 4 teams
bye.
are going to get buys. So then
Right.
5 versus 12, 6 versus 11.
6 versus 11, 7 versus 10.
8 versus 9.
So
those games, I don't think are going to be all that in high demand. Plus, those are the games that are going to be up against the NFL, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Good for TNT.
Well, what do you think, though? TNT, is this opportunity for them to pivot away from one sport to another, maybe?
Well, listen, TNT still has the NHL.
Yep.
They still have
baseball.
They do have some baseball. Not TNT, though. TBS.
TBS, yeah.
It's
Turner Sports.
They have the NHL. They have NASCAR, maybe?
They have a little NASCAR.
They have the NCAA tournament. So they do have some sports still. I just, losing the NBA. See, I was listening to a podcast about this. It's like the only thing worse than overpaying for the NBA is not having the NBA at all. You don't want to overpay for it, but you also don't want to have it. So you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place here.
You really are. And it's funny because I was listening to Andrew Brandt. I don't remember the guy who was talking off the top of my head, but they were talking about how the NBA's ratings have been stagnant for the most part until the postseason. The regular season NBA ratings don't bring a ton of value. So, it's not like the NFL where everyone's a piece of that pie. And while the NBA is trying to get the best deal they could possibly get, they were talking about how the NFL took less money from Netflix to get them in the portfolio because the NFL wants an all-out bidding war in 2029 when these deals are up.
Yeah. Well, they have an opt-out ability to opt out of those deals and kind of start the deals back up again. The NFL is king on all fronts. They're seeing what the NBA got, and they're going to say, we're going to get out of this deal and get a bigger deal.
Absolutely. And by the way, don't forget, the NFL's TV deal ends before the collective bargaining agreement, so the next CBA will have to reflect the new TV revenue.
As always, although, you hear what Hal Steinbrenner said about the Yankees. Was it the Yankees or baseball in general that, the payrolls are going to have to start going down? This is not sustainable.
Baseball in general, yeah. I mean, listen, he can say that all he wants, but the players aren't going to be like, oh, yeah, give us less money. They're not going to easily concede to that.
If the TV money's not coming in is the problem for the baseball.
It is?
Yeah.
It is. That's my 3, Mike.
There you go. Big 3 today. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. All right. I was... Earlier today, we had the food truck here. What'd you have?
So I got the Smash Burger.
Smash Burger from the Decadence food truck.
Yes, I did. It was very good. The secret sauce, I'd like to know what was in that secret sauce. It was pretty darn good. The fries, very underrated menu item.
Yeah?
Very underrated
menu
item.
I saw those. I didn't eat them, but I saw the tater tots that were like chicken fingers and tater tots mixed together. Like loaded chicken finger. They looked delectable. A little too messy for me. It was like warm outside.
Now, you said earlier that you were originally wearing another top and had to take off the quarter zip, right?
Yeah, quarter zip's over there behind me.
Yeah, so at what point today did you realize quarter zip's got to go?
I was outside. I had it on. When I came inside, I took it off.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That's it. I figured it was like, I asked today, I looked at my phone and said like 76 is a high today. But even though it was like 76 warm or 76 with like that cool feel to it, it was more on the warm side, so I took that off. I'm a little chilly in here though.
Oh, it's been very chilly in here. That's why I'm glad I have this hoodie with me.
5:47, we'll get ready to wrap up the show. Coming up next here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
All right, get ready to get out of here on this Wednesday night. Tomorrow, we'll look back at that Phils game. They got an afternoon game. You got Walker pitching tonight, so we'll look forward to see how he bounces back. Taijuan Walker gets a start for the Phils tonight. We'll check that out. We'll be all over that tomorrow. OTAs, day 2. Big story at OTA. No James Bradbury. I don't know if that's a big story or not. We talked about it with Football at Fort Jordan Mosher. Check that out and all the interviews over on our YouTube channel. Don't forget you can watch the show on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive to find us. And we'll be back again tomorrow with Phil's OTAs, game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. We'll dive into that a little deeper. Celtics and Pacers will be tomorrow night as well. Some Sixers news always coming in with the offseason here. We talked a little bit about it earlier. Paul George stuff, that's not going to go away. OG Anunoby is another name to kind of keep an eye on as well. We've got all that and more tomorrow right here on the Sports Bash. All right. Josh has game night coming up next, and I'm looking over. Pacheco was at OTA today, right?
Yes, he was.
All right. I'm wondering if he's going to be there tomorrow. So we'll talk to him tomorrow. Andrew will be on for football at 4. Don't forget, follow us on Twitter X at 973 ESPN. Follow me at Mike Gill Show for all the latest. And make sure you subscribe back to the YouTube channel. For those of you who always ask and are always wondering, we are putting our interviews back up on the YouTube channel right now, so you can go check out all our interview conversations. Kevin Durso yesterday talking about the Flyers. Frank Close's Phillies mailbag is up. You can always check them out on the YouTube channel, so subscribe to the YouTube channel for all the latest interviews from the Sports Bash. That's it for me. I'm Mike Gill, and this has been the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
Summer concerts, pool parties, chill nights under the stars. We're stocking up our closet so you're ready to look your best for all of it. At Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston, we're buying all things summer. So bring in your tees, tote bags, sandals, sunglasses, and more. We pay cash on the spot for gently loved name brand looks. Plato's Closet is the go-to destination for trend-forward teens and young adults who support local and shop sustainable. Visit Plato's Closet today. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.